Good morning, church. Kelly here. I hope you're doing well. We are in Numbers 34. So we see in Numbers 34 that the boundaries of the land are being defined, as well as the tribal leaders are being chosen to divide the inheritance once they go into that land that was defined. As we know, the 2.5 tribes already have their inheritance on the other side of the Jordan. So there are two things that stand out to me in this passage. One is that this is the first time the promised land has been defined. So the promise has been there since Abraham, saying this land will be yours. But this is the first time that even Moses has clearly heard the definition and the boundaries of the promised land of Canaan. And secondly, that Moses is actually instructing the Israelites as their leader, yet he cannot enter into the promised land because of his disobedience we saw in Numbers 20. And the first point being that this is the first time we're actually seeing the promise defined, yet all of these leaders from Abraham to Moses followed God obediently to God's promise and calling. And I don't know about you, but there are times where I'm like, God, I need to know exactly what you're calling me to so I can get going on that. But how many times have you felt like God's given you a promise saying, your prodigal son's going to come back, or that your relationship with this person is going to be restored, or he's given you a vision to go work with refugees in the Middle East, and you're like, I don't know how this is going to happen. Yet it's a vision and promise that he's given you to follow obediently with him and him to take you on this journey, because as we know, as we've seen with the Israelites, the process is what prepares us for the promise. And the second thing I've seen is Moses being a faithful leader. He knows that he is still called to the promise and called to pass on this inheritance to the next generation. And so it may be like you, where God's given you a huge vision, and it's time where you get to have the privilege of passing it off to the next generation. But through all this, we see that God doesn't always give us the clear outcome of the promise, but he calls us to follow him obediently and being faithful through that process, trusting him every moment to know that he is going to fulfill the promise, whether it is in our lifetime or the next. And so I pray that that encourages you today, saying you don't have to know all the details to follow the breadcrumbs that God is giving you for the promise. I hope that encourages you. Much love, church.